Hello, everyone. Welcome to We Love Soaps TV. I'm Roger Newcomb.
I'm Damon L. Jacobs. In part 3 of our interview with Tom Casiello, we discussed some of the hardships and some more struggles that he had working at One Life to Live during a very tenuous time in the show's history between 2004 and 2006. I learned a lot from this part of the interview, so grab a Hoover and get seated because this is going to be good.
Stay tuned.
So then, how did your next job at ABC come about after World Turns ended?
I had turned in a bunch of my stuff to Sue Johnson at ABC. She is in charge of hiring other writers and placing the writers at the ABC shows in New York. And she liked my stuff, but she wanted me to go through the ABC Writer Development Program first, which
is interesting. Let's just talk for a second about what that is, what that was.
It was. I'll admit, when you're 26, and I will fully confess to this now. I'm ashamed of it, but I'll say it. When you're 26 and you have 2 Emmys, and your first thought is, why do I have to go through a writer development program? It's the arrogance of youth, and that's the first thing you jump to. I'm so glad I did. Malie Taggart taught it.
Oh, wow.
And Malie is unbelievable. She's
I enjoy
old
her writing
soap.
very much.
She is old school soap, and she ran a program. There were 10 of us in it, I think. 8 of us? I don't remember. I was the only... Wait, hold on. No, John Loprino. John Loprino and I were the only 2 people who had Cord from One Life to Live, who had been through... soap operas before. The rest of the people in the program were either playwrights or screenwriters or had worked in prime time or whatever, but they were all from different walks of life. All really great, all really fun. And Malie taught this program where we were writing a script a week for ABC, and Sue was giving us notes. And Jesse Murray, I don't know if you know Jesse, but he worked with Sue as well. He would give us notes about what ABC was looking for, and we wrote General Hospital scripts. Not for air. This was not for air. This is all just for
what did they tell you ABC was looking for?
They were a lot more. They were much more interested in shorter scenes.
Shorter scenes than World Turns?
Yeah. They were much more interested in shorter scenes. I don't want to say plot-driven, because it's not plot-driven, but they were much more interested in getting to the point faster. That's not to say you can't have character moments and incorporate character moments. They was just more of a drive to kind of package their shows as a little more geared towards like an MTV audience, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I don't want to make it sound like this is an awful thing, because it really wasn't. It was just, let's cut down on, add more scenes to the show that are a little shorter. There was more intercutting. There was more. It didn't quite follow that, A story, B story, C story, A story, B story, C story formula that P&G did. And again, I know every fan right now is like, damn ABC, and I get it, but that concept is really not an awful one at all. They still were all about really nice character moments, as long as you just got to them without a lot of talk about what we had for dinner last night.
Okay.
Which was fair.
So, and One Life at that time was going through another turnover.
What happened was, at the
and
end of the program, they started placing us at different shows, and I got placed at One Life. And I started with...
And were you very familiar with One Life to Live?
Yes, my grandmother, so that was one of my grandmother's stories, and I remember all, I started right at the end of Michael and Josh. So I got hired...
Michael Malone,
Josh Griffith. And I got hired, and I was so excited to work with Michael Malone. I think he's a fantastic novelist. I love his books. I was a huge... I mean, the Billy Douglas and Marty's rape are 2 of the stories that made me want to be a soap writer. Right. I mean, they made me want to be a soap writer. Right.
And they had recently come back to One Life to Live for what appeared to be, I guess by all accounts, a failed second run. They were gone within a year.
I don't know how long. I don't remember how long they were there.
It was about a year. The fans were not happy. The ratings were down. So they were out.
Yeah. And I was so excited to work with Michael and Josh quit or got fired, I don't know, the week after I started. And then
in 2004.
Yes, 2004. And then Michael left like 2 2 months later, maybe. And I was the new guy. And I didn't know everybody in the business. I knew all the writers who I worked with the P&G shows, but there were no writers at One Life to Live who I had known prior to this. Oh. So I'm really the new guy, and I'm kind of learning my way around a new studio and the politics of a new team, and getting to know Frank and getting to know
Frank Valentini
and getting to know Michael and trying to figure out what it was they were looking for in their outlines, what they preferred. Because everybody's different. I mean, everybody's picky. Like, I don't like tagging a show on this character, and I don't like, using these people at a mid-break. I don't like only having a 3-scene act. And there's all these weird little rules that everybody kind of has. Everybody has their own little foibles about what they want and don't want in an outline. Oh. So I'm trying to learn my way around the show, and it was Josh leaving, and then Michael leaving, and then we didn't have a head writer for 2 weeks. So Frank and Ron were kind of running things, and then Dina came in. Ron Calavati.
So even back then, Ron was a breakdown writer.
Yeah, and he was like the senior. Ron was like the senior breakdown writer. Yeah. He'd been there for so long. Yeah. Ron was fantastic. I have nothing but great things to say about Ron. Shelley Altman too was amazing. Really helped me out.
Why do you think they brought in Dina Higley then, given that Ron had kind of proven himself by that point as a strong writer?
I have no idea. Again, I was the new guy, okay. And I know what was kind of what I heard. But all I heard was I knew she was tight with Brian. Franz. Yep. And the decision came from above. Okay. I honestly, and at the time I didn't know Dina. I had no reason to, think anything. I was like, all right, whatever. We have a new head writer. At that point, 6 months in, I'd been through 2.5 different regimes, and I'm still trying to find my way around the studio. Wow. And I just kind of kept my head low and wrote my outlines and tried to learn what they liked and what they didn't like, and just try to avoid all the craziness going on.
Any interesting interactions with any of the actors from that show?
I have to say, I didn't really get a chance to know any of them. I know that sounds really weird. I'm trying to think. Kat Hickland, I talked with a bunch of times. I adore her. Mm-hmm. I
played Lindsay Rappaport.
And I'm trying to remember if there was anybody else. I mean, we were really the writers were. It wasn't this. I mean, in World Turns, the writers' office was across the hall from Studio One. These actors were leaving the studio, and they were the writers. Right. We were kind of upstairs, back in the corner at One Life. So unless the actors came to seek you out, you really didn't cross with them. Occasionally, but it was usually because they didn't like a story. It was very rare they came in to say hi or anything and just kind of hang out. It was, either I love this or I hate this, but it was we're here for a purpose. It was never like, hey, let's just shoot the bull for 20 minutes, which is what they would do at World Turns.
Or to throw inanimate objects at your head. I guess. Do you recall any actor telling you directly, please change the story, I don't like this, or I'm not comfortable, or...
At One Life?
Yeah.
No, I mean, there were a lot of issues with the Daniel Coulson story, I remember. Mm-hmm.
So for those who may remember this, Daniel Coulson was played by Mark Dobies. And he was brought on as a love interest for Nora, because this was during Nora and Beau's decade-long split. And he was a politician, right? He was kind of a clean-cut politician guy.
Yes.
With a secret.
Yes. Well, that was... And here's what happened with... That was a crazy story, because I thought I can tell the story now, because the poor One Life was gone, but... going. Michael Malone had started the Who Killed Paul Kramer murder mystery, and then was let go. Mm-hmm. And Dina was kind of brought in the middle of this murder mystery, which is so... I mean, to Dina's credit, I can't even imagine what that's like to come in the middle of a murder mystery, and it's like, okay, well, what clues did the previous head writer leave me that I can work with here? Like, how can I develop this? And, it was... I have to say, I didn't agree with the decision that was made. Personally, I felt like... Because we were told Daniel Coulson killed Paul Kramer because he's gay. Which...
Now, you were told that because that was what Dina wrote?
No. That kind of came from above.
Okay.
And, it really kind of pissed a bunch of us off. However... Again, this isn't our job. Our job is not to say, this is wrong and I'm going to walk. Because, if you do, yes, there's standing up for your convictions. And then there's completely shooting yourself in the foot.
Good point.
And we voiced our opinions. And then when our opinions were heard and they said, we appreciate this is what we're doing, it became all about, we are going to make this as real and human and emotional as we possibly can. For us, for the writers. It became about, like, we're not going to be half-assed about this. We're going to... I remember Janet Nakabuzio was a breakdown writer on the show, and she wrote the great scenes when... and I believe they were her idea, when right after Daniel killed Jen, and he went back to his hotel room. He's just killed Jen, and his boyfriend, Mark, tries to convince him to come out of the closet, having no idea that he's just murdered this poor girl who stumbled upon his secret. And Janet did this phenomenal job. I mean, just an amazing job really humanizing Daniel and kind of getting into his head about why, in his old school world, he couldn't come out of the closet, and he's been pushed to do these awful things that he hates himself for. Because it was kind of pitched originally as, like, the gay serial killer. And what ended up airing, I don't feel, was a serial killer. Mm-hmm. It was somebody who killed two people because they stumbled onto a secret and were going to... Well, one person stumbled upon a secret, and the other one just found out that he was a killer. Right. Jen never found out that he was gay, just that he killed Paul Kramer. Right. So... it was really pitched as he's the gay serial killer, and what aired was a desperate man who really screwed up twice. Yeah. And that was, we really worked hard to really sell the emotion of that story as opposed to the sensationalized gay serial killer aspect of it.
And something really worked and clicked because the show jumped to number 2 that week in the ratings when the revelation happened. And I think that is the last time One Life to Live jumped to number 2.
And Todd's execution.
And Todd's execution. Okay.
Todd's execution.
Good. I love you know that.
Todd's execution, we got it there soon.
So something really worked. Why do you think fans clicked and the ratings rose so much during the week that this revelation came out about Daniel's being gay and being a killer?
Well, all right, I'm going to be honest, and a lot of people aren't going to like half of my answer to this. Okay. I do think half of it is sensationalized. I do think half of it is, oh my God, do you know what One Life to Live is doing? And I think that's why people turned on Marlena floating over her bed with yellow eyes. I think there is part of it that says, oh my God, Nora married a gay man who's been killing people. That's just the way our world works. Mm-hmm. You turn on what's salacious and scandalous. Mm-hmm. That's what you watch. I get so much crap by using the word proud of this because people are like, oh, he's proud of the fact that he became innocent. I'm not proud of that. I'm proud of the emotional work we all turned in during that time. And I feel like by playing all the emotional beats of the story, by playing Lindsay coming to him in jail, by playing Mark coming to him in jail, by playing Nora, I'm proud of the scenes where Nora confronted him in the police station. And
you wrote those scenes that we saw.
Yeah, and he compared being gay, because he was an alcoholic. The character was an alcoholic. That was already established. And he compared being gay to alcoholism. Like you just have to keep going back for more, and it's a disease, and you can't control it. And because in his head, he really had kind of linked the two things. It's just like the temptation is too great, and I give in, but I can't give in, but I really want to give in. And Nora unleashing on him and saying being gay is not a disease. And Hillary was fantastic in those scenes.
Yes.
And I felt like if we have to tell this story, if this is the mandate that we're telling this story, let's give it our... I mean, we all thought that. I don't want to say I did. We all thought that. Let's do it. Yeah. Let's sell this story. I would have loved, and by the time, me personally, I would have loved to keep going. I wish it hadn't been a story used to get rid of 4 characters. I wish we'd been able to play the playoff of what it does to Riley and Jen, what it did to Riley to find out that his father did this. Riley Coulson, that his father killed his girlfriend because of this, and his father had this secret all this time, and what Lindsay would have done. If Daniel got off on a technicality for some reason or pled insanity and got off, how this would have played out. Yeah. I would have been really interested in that. Unfortunately, it was we need to get rid of Riley, Jen,
right?
Daniel. Right. So we use this story as a way to get rid of all of them. But yeah, I thought it's a really by the time in the beginning, I was really against it. By the time we got to actually writing it, and by the time it aired, I was like, "This is real. There's a real human drama element to this, and it's something no other show is doing." And I appreciate what it is now.
And there was sensationalism, but as you said, it was based on real, valid emotions and characters that we cared about, being true to the characters.
Yeah, what I love is Daniel never went psycho. You never saw him go psychotic. It wasn't like he was Annie or Julia Annie on Guiding Light. Or you know what I mean? It wasn't like he was all bug-eyed and crazy. And you know, he was a very sane, desperate, sad human being.
Right.
Anyway.
But after that, the show's ratings went back down to where they had been before.
Yeah.
Which, why do you think that happened?
But that happened at World Turns too. I think you can blame the network. I think it's a little bit of everything. I mean, I think this holds true for all the soaps now. I think the ratings will go up when you do something amazing, and then they go back down because that portion of the Nielsen audience that only tunes in when something wild is happening. It's always going to go up and down, which is what has driven soaps to try to do something crazy every week now.
Yeah. Which I would argue is one of the things that have sabotaged soaps in the long run.
I absolutely agree. I think it's, but it's such a, I don't know. My answer to this is a whole different answer depending on what time of day you ask me.
Okay.
Honestly, some days I'm like, oh, we suck. It's all the writers. It's we keep trying to write this garbage. Or why are we gonna? And other days I'm like, oh, it's all the network. If they just leave us alone, we can do our job. And other days I'm like, oh, the fans. Sometimes they tune in, and sometimes they don't. Of course we're writing more salacious stuff because that's the only time the ratings go up. I get it. And honestly, I don't know the answer. I'm just a low-level writer. I don't have the answer. I think it's some combination of all of that, I think. Yeah.
Why did One Life to Live, why did that come to an end for you?
I was let go. I was... my work wasn't as good at the end.
Meaning?
My heart wasn't as into it.
Your work with...
I was having a really hard time with some of the stories.
Like...
It was a real. I'm trying to remember. I love the Tess and Nash stuff. I loved all that. Isn't it awful? I don't even remember what.
Okay.
It's so awful. My heart wasn't into the stories.
Yeah.
There were a lot of changes being made. We wrote Michael and Marcy's wedding, and all of a sudden, after we wrote it, it was like, let's add a tornado to it from the network, and we were like, add a tornado? You don't just add a tornado. That's rewriting an entire week's worth of episodes to add a tornado.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff like that happening.
Was this also the time that Al died, came back as Michael?
He was Michael for a while. It was the Spencer Truman story. That's what it was. We did Todd's execution, and we finished Todd's execution, and then, it was all Spencer and Blair, and I was kind of losing track of the stories, where the characters were, what was happening, myself personally, and a lot of that's on me. This is not to blame Dina or Frank or Brian Franz or anybody.
But I was disengaged. I will tell you, I had no connection to the show at that point. Yeah. There was no inspiration for me to turn on. There was nothing happening with anyone who I cared about during that period.
I agree, and here's the thing though that fans, don't always understand when I say this. I get paid to not disengage. And even though as a fan I might be disengaging, it's my job. It's what I'm hired to do, to deliver the best possible work I can.
Yeah.
No, even if I'm disengaging.
Yeah.
I can't change the channel. And I think what was happening at One Life, they were probably right to let me go. I think I was completely just kind of disassociating from the show and not really... There's a lot of politics and a lot of weird stuff flying back and forth, a lot of notes, and I was just like, I don't know where these stories are going. I don't get this.
Did you speak out?
Not really. Not really. I think I just kind of pulled away and kind of retreated.
And withdrew, huh?
Yeah, and withdrew.
Yeah.
And I think I just wasn't turning in. Oh, it was Kelly and Duke. The last of I remember.
I hated that. Excuse me. I have to say I hated that story.
I do remember this now. The last episode I wrote was Kevin and Kelly with divorce papers, I think.
And gotten pregnant with Duke's child.
Right. I didn't get any of it. I just and it would show it in my work. It showed it in my work. And so, as much as you as a family are disengaged from it, I don't have that luxury is a bad word to use there, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
I can't. That's not what they're paying me for.
Right.
They're paying me to be interested whether I am or not, and to
Right.
deliver my best work, and I wasn't.
Right.
So they let me go.
Well, that was fascinating.
Yes, but that was not the end of his career in daytime. There's actually a lot more to come, so stay tuned for part 4, where Tom talks about what happened during his struggles at Days of Our Lives.